So, being of a certain age, one gets to revisit films that you saw in the cinema like 30 years ago.
Yep.
The urge took me to rewatch all the Matrix films.
Mm,
Actually, first one, very good.
good
Second
choice.
one, Monica Bellucci in that dress, amongst many other things. And then the third one, um, not so good. That it did make me remember. I saw it in the cinema with my friend Dave, and this isn't a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it because I don't recommend it. But the end of the film, there's all this light and noise and the great crescendo building up and building up and building up, and then it gets to this massive climax, and then it just cuts out, and the screen goes dark, and
Mhm.
the music cuts out, and there's silence. And in the silence of this packed cinema, my best friend Dave just went, "What the fuck was that?" At the top of his voice. And so, rewatching it, I was just reminded of this wonderful moment.
He was just
But yeah,
saying what everybody was thinking.
well, precisely. So yes, alas, not one to worth revisiting, unfortunately.
Oh, that's kind of a bummer. The first 2, I mean, honestly, like, yeah, you're right, though, the Monica Bellucci of it all. But, like, the first one's a banger. It really
Mm,
is.
mm,
And
mm.
but I it's kind of funny that you say that because I have this doesn't stop, by the way. I'm just kind of revisiting it because I must prep. Um, I keep watching all of David Cronenberg's oeuvre of
Mm,
films
mm.
because came out with The Shrouds, which just came out a couple of months ago, and it seemed like it was a really limited release, and I unfortunately have been traveling so much that I didn't get a chance to see it when it was in the theater, um, but it's out on the Criterion Channel tomorrow because, of course, I'm the kind of person that has the Criterion Channel, and
Surprising nobody.
so, yeah, it's just been nothing but, uh Crimes of the Future, The Fly, Shivers, like, all of these things, not Shivers, is it Shivers? Now I can't even remember. These are the things that I'm watching at, like, 2 a.m. when my brain's completely burnt out, I'm just sitting there going, but, like, one of the best directors of all time, if you ask me, dear daddy Cronenberg, and, so, yeah, but all of this to say, listeners, that the Cronenberg of it all is extremely relevant this week because we're actually gonna talk about the Prog. For God's sake, it's finally fucking happening again.
What? What? A 2000 AD podcast talking about 2000 AD? No, that can't be right at all.
Oh,
Um,
we finally looped it back around.
we did, we did. Everything comes full circle. Welcome, Earthlets. This is In Orbit every Wednesday.
Get 2000 AD now. Get 2000.
Welcome to In Orbit every Wednesday, Earthlets. I am your host, Molch-R. This is your host, KLO-E, and we are back for another half an hour or so of chat about 2000 AD, and specifically about this week's 2000 AD. Prog 2440, got it right this time.
Oof.
Which, and I'll even hold it up to the screen.
Ooh.
The fantastic cover by Tazio Bettin, which heralds the return of Azimuth.
Mhm. Mm,
Now, if you've not caught up on Azimuth, I really recommend you go back and do so because it's quite exquisite.
yes.
More so because, of course, for those in the know, it is a huge tie-in to one of, I mean, the longest running series in 2000 AD history, which is Sinister Dexter,
Mhm.
but with a classic Dan Abnett full-on left turn, strap in Earthlets, we're going off-road, um, kind of thing. But actually, I mean, this is a perfect prog to kind of return to talking about the prog because we've got the second episode of a brand new Dredd. We've got a brand new series from Tom Eglington and I think it's Steven Austin. We've got Azimuth. We've got the rounding out of a thriller, and we've got the ongoing Scarlet Traces. So it's kind of perfect. So make sure
Kind of
you
a
grab.
good little sampling of a
Yeah,
little bit of everything.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
let's start off. Well, no, right. At the beginning of this episode, you made a bold claim that everything in this week's 2000 AD is the Cronenberg of it all.
Okay, not everything,
Not
but a
everything.
lot of it, but a lot of it.
Mm,
It was the first thing, we were sitting there going, "Huh, what are we gonna talk about this week? Like, what's gonna be our theme? We're gonna finally talk about the Prog again. What is our theme going to be? Because we love a theme."
we do.
And it was a no-brainer for me reading this, like, at 6 a.m. this morning, sitting here reading through it, I'm like, this is all David Cronenberg. Like, this is all, like, the new Flash and, like, the body as, like, a weird prison to technology and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. It all ties together for me. I'm sorry if everybody can hear all of the terrible, terrible truck noises outside, by the way. My house is
Oh, now I can.
yeah, my house is 1,000,000,000 degrees, because global warming isn't real. And so, and my house has no AC, so I have to keep all the windows open at all times, and it's just a symphony. So I apologize for any background noise on this week's episode. Um, but yes, so Dread, Dread,
Dread, dread.
Dread. So, you know me. You say the words, you say the name Rob Williams and Dread together, and I just start, "Oh, wah!" Like, it's just the best news to me every single time it happens because it's seriously unmatched. I've said 1,000 times that Rob is, the perfect follow-up to John Wagner because I think he's the only one who really, really gets what John is doing. Please don't get a big head about this, Rob. I know that you're probably listening. You can't do it. Um, but it's this particular episode is so much fun because I feel like I want confirmation of this, by the way. I feel like Rob had just gotten done watching Videodrome for the first time in a while because I mean, spoiler alert, obviously, but there is a scene where somebody reaches into their body, into the stomussy, and
The what?
have you seen Videodrome, Mike?
No, no. I've told you before. I am quite significantly film illiterate,
This is another one of the I keep giving you lists of movies to watch,
and then I don't watch them.
and then you don't fucking watch them, but Videodrome is one that you have to watch because, um, uh, there is a scene where James Woods literally has, like, a pussy forming in his stomach that he reaches into and pulls out like a flesh gun. Um, yeah. Yeah. This is gonna entice everybody to watch it if they haven't seen it, and people who have seen it to watch it again. But there is a scene in this Dread where a person who I don't wanna give away too many spoilers, reaches into their undead stomach and pulls out a gun, and I was like, "This is a Videodrome." And it made me so incredibly happy because it never occurred to me that, like, all of these ideas that Cronenberg tends to include in his movies, technology, the body, evolution, dying, death, all of these things are all themes that you find in Dread. I'm so happy. Like, it's not even my birthday. Like, you put two of my favorite things together.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I like the way that Rob has taken the natural terseness of Wagner's Dredd
Mhm.
and has almost, and I say this not as a pejorative or as a criticism, has almost fetishized it and has kind of honed it
Mhm.
down, so it has a particular cadence to it, and it's the cadence of a Western.
Yes.
So that wonderful moment, wonderful timing in the first page, where this other judge says, somebody said, they wanted to speak to you, Dredd, and he just says, "I look like I do requests."
Yeah.
And that's not
It's
necessarily a
the
line that
Haggard
Wagner.
cowboy at the bar.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
do
not
that. Yeah.
necessarily a a a line that Wagner's Dredd would have ever said, but it's Rob's way of writing Dredd, but using the terseness of Wagner's.
I'm trying
And
to come up with the word for that. It's not a pastiche
no,
necessarily, but it's a,
a homage.
homage, that's it.
Homage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's kind of the beautiful thing about Rob's writing with Dredd in general, and probably why I love it so much, because it is the true. He's not gonna not get a big head about this once I say this out loud, but it is truly, like, passing down art as an art form personified,
Mhm,
because art at its core is the influence of everything, all of the art that you yourself have consumed, being able to mimic that in a way that is also your own. And
mm,
I think that, you know, nobody's going to deny that John Wagner is the best writer of Dread that has ever been. And I think that, like, Rob is somebody who has really, really absorbed not just the way that he wrote Dread, but the spirit of it, and then took that and, like, twisted it around just enough so that it is an homage, but it is very much his own thing.
mm. For me, the central difference is Wagner's Dredd is almost always um, in charge. He's in
Yes.
control. He's in control of the situation. Rob's Dredd. Well, Rob seems to delight in making Dredd feel out of control.
Things
As in,
happen to him rather than him happening to other
yeah,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
and even with stuff like the Small House,
Mhm.
where it is a slow burn outflanking of somebody who's supposedly been in charge of Justice Department for so long. Dread relies on having the brains,
Mhm.
who are these, it's Maitland and it's Dirty Frank and it's all the other cast around him. But then you have stories like Titan,
Mhm.
and the most recent one, the kind of precursor to this story that's recently begun in 2000 AD, which was also with RM Guera, the artist, where it's I said this to his face and he didn't like it. I said it's basically the Grey, but with Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
Um, where he's being hunted by you know a monster, and kind of like a combination of the Grey and the Terror.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but throughout that, as Dredd is struggling to regain control of the situation, he needs to be in charge. He needs to be in control.
Mhm.
But whereas John's Dredd always feel it's one of the joys of the character is
Yeah.
it always feels as if he knows what's going on, and he
Even
everyone
when
loves
that's not the case, it's the
him when that's
case,
not
you
the
know?
case. Yeah. Um, so that's for me, that's the fundamental difference between their approaches. Not that one is necessarily best or one is bad, but
No.
it's a unique voice, and it's why Dredd is such a great character that you can just have a writer with a unique voice doing their own thing with it.
Yes. Um, Also, speaking of kind of like homage,
Mm,
I'm glad you brought up Guerrero because I really like his Dread
mm,
a
mm,
lot. a lot, a lot, a lot, and I'll tell you why. Because I mean, it all looks fabulous. The backgrounds are fabulous. The character design, all wonderful. But in particular, his Dredd 100% reminds me of the early, early, early progs and character design by McMahon. It seems like a beautiful and but updated tip of the hat to
Mm.
that. You know, we do see a lot of Dredd designs where it's a little more angular, it's a little more tight, literally tight-lipped, and all of these things. Hello, where are you going? Oh god.
I'm just getting away from you. Um,
Probably smart. But it's so nice to see kind of a little nod to the early McMahon where the helmet's a little bit rounder,
I mean,
the nose a little bit broader, the lips a little bit fuller, like,
yeah.
and the skin is given, like, a kind of a grizzly texture, like, all of these things, it just it and because it's an updated version of it, it just looks good, and it kind of shows that that initial design still holds really good weight for the character.
Mm. Well, absolutely, and but I would say that's all the way back to Esquerra's original
Oh,
design
yeah.
for the character, and this is my now falling apart copy of Judge Dredd: The Mega History. Um, uh, there's that wonderful uh,
Yeah.
first page from Bankrate, the unpublished the kind of postponed first episode, um, and it's very clear he is much more in a kind of spaghetti western style of Dredge. You know, he's the outrider. He's
Yeah.
the kind of relaxed figure on the big handlebars of his bike.
Are you saying
And
that he is the law?
no, no, I wouldn't say that at all. Um, but whereas and everyone makes their own choices when they go on to Dread. Whereas an awful lot of artists, I think, have gradually um, seen the dominance of the kind of mid age of McMahon. So your Blockmania into your um yeah, kind of
Yeah.
the mid '80s kind of McMahon. So it's all blocky.
Yeah.
And that for me, I think probably subconsciously has come to dominate interpretations of Dread as that
Mhm.
big monolith,
Yeah.
whereas Guerra goes back all the way to the original Esquerra, where I mean, Esquerra walked away from Dread to go and work on Mestizo, the
Yeah.
formerly enslaved person turned gunslinger for Battle Picture Weekly. You know?
Yeah.
What were you laughing at?
No, I was laughing because, it's still extremely early here.
Yeah.
I've only had 1 cup of coffee, and it didn't occur to me that I actually mixed up my 2 points, and what I meant to say was that it gave a nod of the hat to the early Ascara designs, and that it pushes back against the more prevalent Mimea. So you actually made my point for me, and now I get to be suitably embarrassed because I'm really tired. Back to
Well, I
talking
mean,
about the frog, and we are on top of it.
we absolutely. I mean, we may go around the houses, but we get there eventually.
Yeah, so thank you everybody who is sitting there probably fucking fuming at me saying that, and thanks for holding on and holding on to your YouTube comments for, like, a couple of minutes while I got my
Right.
shit together.
One thing I will say, I did see a comment asking why we don't react to the live comments on YouTube. This is pre-recorded, so
This is
although it goes out as a premiere, and you can comment as the episode first airs, it is all pre-recorded. So I'm sorry we can't respond to your instant comments.
well, here's the thing, I probably would, but that's, like, 3 or 4 in the morning for me. So but which isn't to say that I'm not up, so maybe I'll give that a
Well,
shot one day.
maybe just occasionally we should do like a in orbit every Wednesday nights,
Ooh, 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 that
but where
sounds saucy.
where it's first thing in the morning for me and the middle of the night for you,
Yeah.
and uh, Yeah, I mean, I barely make sense at the best of times. Anyway, but we'll come on to the new series that's just started in this Prog, which is the Ravelous Pact
Yes.
by Tom Eglington and Stephen Austin, with colors by John Charles, letters by Simon Boland, which is interesting. I don't know where this is going. I haven't read ahead on this, so I've only read
Okay.
this episode. And kind of demon gangsters is something that 2000 AD has tried before.
It's the hot thing.
Yeah, and Hellblazer still exists. That
Yeah.
you fundamentally have to talk about Hellblazer with this kind of thing. But I'm interested in your thoughts because of your mention of the David Cronenberg of it all.
Well, the David Cronenberg doesn't fit into this one, Mike. That's not
Oh,
part of the
okay.
list that I gave you.
Ah,
But, no, I think it's like I enjoy seeing the different iterations of, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Supernatural gangsters.
right.
Like, there are a lot of different 2000 AD stories that fit into that genre, and
Mm.
honestly, the crossover, the 2 separate genres actually work really well together and are extremely fun. I don't know what it is about, British people where they're like gangsters, but make it ghosts. But I'm but I enjoy seeing kind of how everybody chooses to weave those things together,
Mm.
because I think it could fall really flat as a genre, or it could get really tiresome, but everybody seems to add their own little thing. And I kind of enjoy like, I enjoyed this simply because it almost seems more mundane. Like, we just got Portals and Black Goo not too long ago, and that kind of also fit into that subgenre under that little umbrella, and so this feels like in the same vein, but a departure from that because it is a little bit more, softened is not the right word.
Mm.
Mundane feels rude, but it's not meant to be. Um, yeah, do you get where I'm coming from here?
Yeah,
Um,
I'd use the phrase quotidian.
w Sure you would.
And I
I
bloody well
bet
hope
you
I'm
would. You would
saying that
use
right.
that. What
But
does that
every
mean?
day, like the quotidian details of life are the everyday details. Like a sense of the everyday, a sense of you call it you use the word mundane, but it's more just yeah, everyday life.
Cotillion?
I do think we should name this subgenre creepy blinders.
Holy shit. That's the best thing you've ever said.
Thanks, mate.
You followed up Cotillion with that? My god. That was extremely, extremely good,
Thank
Mike.
you. Thank you. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's body horror in this, and I think that's one of
Yeah.
the. Oh, what are you screwing your face up
Yeah,
for?
I'm just a snob, that's
Oh,
all.
okay. Here we go.
I'm just a snob, that's all. I'm like, "That's not body horror." Fi
I mean, I'm
fist
sorry they're
into
not pulling weapons out
out
of
of the stomussy?
vaginas in their bellies.
Yeah. The, I mean, there is an element of body horror. I would like to see more. Let's see
That's
what
fair.
happens.
But I'm kind of conscious of time, but because I want to move on to talk about Azimuth,
Yes.
because we've gone on at length, waxed lyrical about Dan Abnett on the show before,
Mhm. And
whether
we
it was
will
Lawless,
continue to do so.
absolutely, whether it was Lawless, whether it was Brink. but Azimuth, Abandoned by God, which is the new story with Tazio, Bettin, Matt Soff on colors, and Jim Campbell on letters. Um, this this is just peak Abnett.
Yeah.
There are, hang on, let me just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Are you
11.
setting off like my KGB code word or
Yeah.
something? What are you
I
doing?
mean, this is the 2000 AD numbers station. Uh, 11 there are 12 separate puns on the first page alone.
You just counted them?
Yeah. First page, 12 separate puns.
Yep, that tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
The now this one I can tie back to Cronenberg
There we
because yeah, I had to. I can tie it back because it's so much about like they even call it the new flesh.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Which again, Videodrome. Somebody there is a pandemic going around where a whole bunch of like British men of a certain age are rewatching Videodrome, and I'm here for it. Um, but it's like long live the new flesh is
Mhm.
literally the tagline for Videodrome, and it's the confluence of technology and the body, and that fits really well with the theme of this. So I was super excited to see that mentioned, but I mean, there are literally people made out of memes here.
Well, there's a character called Mimi Meme.
Meme.
She's just fantastic.
And there's one that just kinda looks like Sailor Moon, and, like, there's so again, this feels like a concept that has been done before, but is being updated in really fun and interesting ways, which is also, frankly, a Dan Abnett trait,
Yeah.
you know?
And so this is not going to cover anyone in any kind of glory. There was a series in the 90s called Wireheads.
Mhm.
I can't even remember who it was written by, but the artist was a guy called Mike Hadley.
Mhm.
Um, and it was part of a very particular um, here we go. Mark Isles was the writer. And it was part of a very particular subgenre that cropped up in the 90s, and what I would describe as 2000 AD's hackers phase,
Yes.
when basically one too many people had read um, William Gibson's
Neuromancer?
and we're desperately trying to capture the spirit of cyberpunk in a comic that had done cyberpunk. I would argue before Gibson, but
Yeah,
let's
but shush,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
And Wireheads was very much all the weird puns and people being in different digital realms and all this that and the other.
Back to
And
Planet.
yeah, yeah, a great film after a couple of drinks and a kebab. Um, but I bring it up not to tar Azimuth with that particular black as sin brush, but it's exactly that. The lots of people have tried this kind of thing of this kind of digital realms in comics, and for my money, they've never worked.
Yeah.
But what Dan does is, I think he mixes uh, lots of punnage, lots of computer references. Obviously the digital world is much different now, but he plays it with a kind of fantasy brush where it's more akin to the notions behind D&D and role
Yeah.
playing.
Um, I'm so glad that you said that. Like, the whole, like, you can meet the, like, high master of all of this whole system, but
Yeah,
you have to go through the labyrinth to meet the Minotaur. I'm like, I've played that very, very basic D&D game. Like, everybody who's ever played D&D, who's played that was, like, their first campaign, and I think the way that he went about doing it is really, really cool, because normally, like, the concept of meeting the Minotaur in a labyrinth is, like, meeting this, this hurdle that you have to get over to prove yourself. Um, and in this little start that we get to see, this first little episode, our character, whose name is Susie 9mm, which is like the best cyberpunk drag queen name I've ever heard in my life. Um, but she runs into she is this Minotaur, which is drawn so scratchily
Mm.
and beautifully, um, is hovering over her, and when she finally turns around, there's basically a version of herself that is obviously more human than what she is, and it's facing herself to prove that she is able to continue on the journey, and I'm like, "Okay, Dan, you big fucking nerd." I'm like
No, it's wonderful, and if you've not read Azimuth, I do recommend you go back. The back issues are on the 2000 AD app, and they're pretty cheap. And when you subscribe, you get access to a bunch of back issues. So if you come in part way through a story, you can catch up. Because it is worth it. I believe the plan is to collect it, but we've got to get through some context with Sinister Dexter first before we can get to Azimuth. One of the questions we didn't get to in our Q&A episode was, why do we not collect Sinister Dexter? Simple answer is that the collections that we have done did not sell well at all. So,
which is ironic, because I feel like everybody has a massive hard-on for Sinister Dexter.
So there is a genre of 2000 AD series that is popular within the comic, but then doesn't necessarily sell in collection.
Oh.
And it's weird. I've literally been somebody called me a liar to my face when I tried to explain this to someone at a convention once. But there are certain stories that we know are popular because we get all the feedback, and people tell us that they're enjoying them and everything. But then the collections don't necessarily do as well as we would expect. To be. It's one of the vicissitudes of comic book publishing. But yeah, the plan is to reap Azimuth. So yeah, subscribe on the 2080 app and go and get the back issues. We do promotions every so often where we make basically a year's worth of digital 2000 AD, like a third off. So keep an eye out on the newsletter. We are out of time. I'm going to be strict this week. We are out of time, but some excellent chat about a really great prog, and it's so great to see a whole bunch of new stuff, and new returns. And the cover, the Tazio Bettin cover is just
really beautiful.
He's so good at it.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. So make sure you subscribe to 2000 AD, whether it's on the app or whether you get it from your newsagents or your comic book store. And we're going to be back.
Yeah.
In 7
we're
days'
gonna
time.
be back.
Yeah, cool.
I am gonna start commenting on the YouTube comments. I made a KLO-E account, so y'all never find me, but you get my comments. I just hope you're ready for me to start answering at 2:00 in the morning.
I can't bite my fingernails down anymore, Chloe.
Yes, you can. Take the whole finger off my.
And so we come back to Cronenbergian body horror. Yes, thank you very much for tuning in, Earthlets. I've been Molch-R. This has been KLO-E. We should be back in 7 days' time for more from the Galaxy's Greatest podcast. Subscribe, spread the word. Thank you for all the great feedback. Well, you know what? We're going to do another Q&A episode before the year is out, I think. People seem to enjoy that. So, yeah. Great stuff. Well, we'll see you in a week's time, Earthlets. And until then, Splendid Birthrig.
See you next week.
Get 2000 AD now. Get 2000.
Well, thanks for joining us on In Orbit every Wednesday, Earthlets. Make sure you like and subscribe and go along to 2000 AD, where you'll be able to subscribe to 2000 AD and the Judge Dredd magazine. Sign up to our newsletter and you'll get hundreds of pages of free comics to download. And download the app for your Apple and Android devices. Now, don't forget, Earthlets, this is the 2000 AD universe. We just live in it.